$8 to $12 a kilo. That is the going price right now in China for a bag of live locusts. Roughly the price of chicken breast at an American grocery store, paid in cash, paid gladly. Sit with that for a second, because somewhere else on this planet, at this exact moment, a government is burning through millions of dollars trying to kill the very same insect. Aircraft in the air before sunrise. Chemicals falling across farmland the size of a small state. Farmers setting fire to their own fields, choosing to lose the crop themselves rather than watch it get eaten. Same insect, one place is paying to destroy it, another place is paying to buy it. Only one of them is winning. So what did China see in the swarm that everybody else missed? Give me 8 minutes. First, understand what we are actually talking about, because a locust is not a grasshopper with a bad reputation. It is a switch. Most of the time, these insects live scattered and alone, harmless, invisible, but crowd them together and something in their biology flips. Their behavior changes, their bodies change. They stop being individuals and start being a single organism with 100 million wings. A female lays up to 200 eggs. Do that math across a few generations, and the curve stops looking like growth and starts looking like an explosion. A handful becomes a cloud in weeks, and that cloud does not sit still. It travels more than 90 miles in a day, over deserts, over open ocean, over borders that mean absolutely nothing to it. Here's the number that reframes everything. The United Nations estimates that a swarm covering a single square kilometer, about a third of a square mile, can eat as much food in one day as 35,000 people. One day. One small swarm. And there is never just one swarm. In 2020, the world got a reminder. Locusts rose off the Arabian Peninsula and rolled through Yemen, into Ethiopia, into Kenya, and kept going. In some towns, the sky went dark in the middle of the afternoon. Scientists put a few of those swarms at up to 80 billion insects. Enough appetite to erase the daily food of millions of people. And the time it takes you to eat lunch. The damage was not abstract. In Somalia, roughly 247,000 acres of farmland stripped. In Ethiopia, more than 40,000 tons of grain gone. In Kenya, some harvest down 15% in a single season, a year of work from planting to irrigation to waiting. Deleted by an insect, a few centimeters long. We have been losing this fight for a very long time. The Bible names locusts as the 8th plague of Egypt, the day the sky darkened and every green thing was stripped bare. Thousands of years and one entire scientific revolution later, the plague still shows up. It is one of the only natural disasters humanity has never actually solved. And here's why. Not because we did not try hard enough, because of how locusts exist. They do not stay anywhere long enough to be beaten. Today, a swarm is one country's emergency. Tomorrow, it is somebody else's. The moment one nation gets control, new swarms hatch 3 borders away, and the whole cycle restarts. Decades of eradication campaigns bought no permanent victory, and the bill kept arriving anyway. Chemicals soaked into farmland, soil losing its strength, farming ecosystems quietly knocked off balance. China knew this bill personally. In 2000, northern provinces including Inner Mongolia and Xinjiang got hit hard enough that aircraft were spraying across tens of thousands of square kilometers just to hold the line. So for years, China fought the war exactly like everybody else. And then somebody asked the question that flipped the entire logic. What if the locust was never a problem to be destroyed? Look at it again, but this time as an accountant instead of a farmer. What is actually in front of you? Protein content comparable to beef. An animal that needs almost no water. An animal that needs almost no farmland. And a growth rate no cow, no pig, no chicken on earth can touch. Everything that makes a locust a catastrophe. The breeding speed, the density, the ruthless efficiency is exactly what you would ask for if you were designing livestock from scratch. For a country of more than 1 billion people, where feeding everyone is a permanent strategic problem, that realization is not a curiosity. It is a door. And in China, eating insects was never taboo. It goes back thousands of years, a normal part of the food culture, not a dare. So in Shandong, in Henan, in Inner Mongolia, the farms started appearing. Walk into one, it looks less like agriculture and more like a factory built for something very small. Hundreds of fine mesh cages lined up in rows, sand and sawdust across the floor to hold the moisture, air held between 86 and 95 degrees, humidity locked around 65%, a summer that never ends, engineered on purpose, because heat is the accelerator. From egg to harvest, 30 to 45 days. Read that again. A steer takes years. This takes about a month, thousands of insects per square meter, batch after batch, nearly all year long, using no grazing land, almost no water, and producing essentially none of the methane that makes conventional livestock a climate problem. And that was only the beginning, because the harvest is where the reversal really lands. There is no chase, no blackened sky, no panic. Workers adjust the light and the temperature, and the locusts obediently gather into dense clusters, the way they always have, except now that instinct is being used against them. The cage is open, dozens of kilos are lifted out in minutes. The exact swarming behavior that made this creature unstoppable in the wild is the reason it is so easy to collect in a cage. Then it goes to the plant, and the transformation finishes. Sealed rooms, temperature control. The locusts go into vibrating tanks of circulating water with ultrasonic waves and rotating steel drums. A wash so precise it strips off dust, sand, leaf, debris, even the natural oil on the shell, without tearing one wing. Cold air dries them. Automated cameras scan every body and reject anything deformed or contaminated. At that point, they stop being insects on the paperwork. They become an ingredient. Some are dropped into hot oil and come out glossy and gold, crisp as a cracker, dusted with chili salt and slivers of lime leaf, sold as a snack. But the money is not really in the snack. It is in the feed. Frog farms, duck farms, poultry operations, they have become the biggest buyers because a fresh locust runs over 60% protein, thick with the amino acids that make animals grow faster, keep their guts healthy, and cut the need for antibiotics. It can replace part of the fish meal and soy that get more expensive every year. Feed costs fall. Weight gain rises. Meat quality improves. Direct supply lines now run from locust breeders straight to livestock farms. A closed loop with a former plague sitting inside it as a paid supplier. Now, zoom out, because this is where it stops being a story about bugs. By 2050, there will be close to 10 billion people, and demand for meat, eggs, and seafood is expected to rise by nearly 70%. But conventional livestock is hitting a wall you cannot engineer your way around. It already occupies nearly 80% of the world's agricultural land, while delivering less than 20% of humanity's calories. Every pound of beef costs hundreds of gallons of water, and it pumps methane into an atmosphere that cannot absorb any more of it. Insects rewrite that equation. A single kilogram of feed produces several times more protein through insects than through cattle or pigs. Almost no water, almost no land, which is why automated insect farms are now going up in Europe, why alternative protein is a serious industry in North America, why circular agriculture projects in Japan are pointed at the same idea. International agricultural organizations now list insects among the most sustainable food sources of the future. So, the question from the top: what did China see that everyone else missed? Nothing. That is the answer. They saw exactly what everyone else saw: 80 billion insects, fields gone in an afternoon, a creature we have been losing to since the Book of Exodus. They just stopped calling it an enemy. For thousands of years, our instinct was the same. If it threatens the harvest, kill it. Spray the pest, pull the weed, eradicate the threat at any cost. Then quietly pay that cost in exhausted soil and broken ecosystems. And after all of it, the swarm still comes back. The locusts never changed. The sky still goes dark. The eggs still hatch by the hundreds. What changed was the person standing in the field, deciding whether that was a disaster or a delivery. Sometimes, the future of farming is not killing what you fear. It is putting it to work.